From time to time, I reflect on what is it that ultimately is the job and the role of a rabbi. And a rabbi's job has many aspects to it. But one job, one role, one mission that a rabbi has is to look at life through a Jewish lens, to look at current situations through the lens of Torah, to understand how we should be responding in the moment, because that is how I view Torat Chaim, the Torah of life, the Torah of lived reality. How do you use a Jewish lens, a Torah lens, to understand what's going on? Now we are seeing in Iran stepped up oppression against people who are trying to speak out. Now they're using technology to try to track people. Thousands have been murdered. This is a diabolical attempt to suppress free speech. And we look in the Torah and we see that the children of Israel were not only allowed to, but commanded to rise up against a tyrant. And so we look to the Torah and we understand that human beings are not supposed to live in tyranny. They are in fact expected to speak out, and good people of good conscience the world over are supposed to support those who are living as subjects of tyranny. I want to say a few words about how we in this country, in the United States, are dealing with questions of safety and immigration, because Judaism has something to say about that as well. And the Torah helps us to understand how to navigate, even when there are aspects that are complicated. Last week, I attended a conference, and at the conference, we learned how to use managing polarities as a way to confront difficult situations. Some things are not black and white. Some things don't have simple solutions. But you need to understand that there are polarities, that there are different issues that are sometimes in tension with each other, and how do you manage and navigate those polarities? So when it comes to these questions, the polarities that I would identify are security and empathy. Those are both important. Nobody would deny that security is important, that we need to protect ourselves. But empathy is also part of the equation, and both stem from Jewish tradition going back to the Torah. In terms of security, in this morning's parasha, again and again, we are told that other people may not impose themselves in a dangerous way with impunity, and that we may not cause danger or damage to other people. So there is accountability when one person does harm to another, and we are told that we need to make sure that people are held accountable. We also need to make sure that we don't do any damage to other people with our property and with our livestock. And there is a statement in the Talmud which is very striking, but I want to share it with you. Haba alecha lehorgecha, hashkem lehorgo. Which means if somebody comes after you with the intention of killing you, wake up early and kill them. Striking, very striking. It doesn't sound like a pleasant thing, but our tradition understood that sometimes we need to take steps in order to ensure that someone else doesn't cause us or others harm. And how that gets worked out, trust me, is very complicated in Jewish tradition. Now, the Torah not only tells us that we have to ensure security, by making sure that others don't do damage and that if they do, they are held accountable. The Torah also tells us that we need to show empathy to people who are in vulnerable situations because we ourselves were in vulnerable situations. And so the Torah tells us, "Beger lo tilchatz, ve'atem yedatem et nefesh hager ki gerim heyitem be'eretz Mitzrayim." And then it tells us, "Veger lo toneh," you should not oppress the stranger, ve'lo tilchatzenu, and cause them stress, ki gerim heyitem be'eretz Mitzrayim, for you yourselves were stranger in the land of Egypt. It is so interesting the way different commentators understood that. So Rashi says that means you should not oppress the person through words. You should not make the person feel less than by saying things that are demeaning to the other person. And what does Rashi say? Im honito afu yachol lahonotcha. If you demean the other person, that person can demean you right back and say, af atem migerim bate. You too were strangers. This is something that we in the United States need to think about. My grandfather came here a few generations ago, and he was lucky that he came here during a time when it was possible for him to come here. He wasn't admitted because he had secrets that he could share. He didn't have a university education. He was a tailor here in the United States who happened to read all of Charles Dickens in order to teach himself English. But that's besides the point. He didn't come with training. He came here looking for opportunity and looking for respite from danger, and the United States welcomed him. And that is true of many of our ancestors and many of us. Now, I want to go on because the commentators say things that are so rich and they provide a lens of Torah. So Ramban Nachmanides says it goes even deeper than that. God is saying to the Jewish people, Ki ani ro'edim ata ashukim, I see those who are being oppressed, asher ein lahem menachem, who don't have any to help them, and the same way that I helped you when you were being oppressed, I will help those whom you oppress. Don't think that you are the only ones that are going to be on the receiving end of my support, because I want to help kol adam, every person who is being oppressed. This is really powerful. And I'm asking us to do some deep thinking. And deep thinking is not easy. The Torah understands the two polarities. Security is important. Protect yourself, protect other people, but so is empathy. The Torah doesn't say that the ger, the stranger, is a source of danger. The Torah simply says, whenever there is danger, do what you can to be responsive. But do not forget your own experience of vulnerability and apply that to other people. And that's what empathy is all about. And finding the right navigation, security, and empathy is crucial. In the United States, there has been a very long-standing alliance between Jewish people and other oppressed people. And I want to share with you a quotation. This is the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., 1958, at an American Jewish Congress convention. Here's what he said. "My people were brought to America in chains. Your people were driven here to escape the chains fashioned for them elsewhere. Our unity is born of our common struggle for centuries, not only to rid ourselves of bondage, but to make oppression of any people by others an impossibility." The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Now, I have heard Jewish people say, well, we have these allies, and what do they do for us? We help them, they don't help us. Historical fact, during the 1930s, when Jewish professors were looking to leave Germany because they saw the writing on the wall, and Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Stanford said, "Have a nice day, we're not interested," Black colleges throughout the United States welcomed these Jewish professors, including some very famous professors. So this is part of our history, that there is a sense of shared vulnerability, which leads to a sense of shared empathy, and that is the lens of Torah that I believe that we need to apply. I'm part of the New York Board of Rabbis. I had a Zoom call with my colleagues in Minneapolis. And what they are describing there is something we need to be thinking about. They are talking about 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds who are afraid to go to school. So one rabbi said that the kids in her Hebrew school are saying that in public school, a large portion of the class isn't showing up because they are afraid that they are going to be taken away. And indeed, some have been taken away. We need to think about this seriously as Jewish human beings. What does it mean to have a real security threat and to address that real security threat? And when is security threat being used as a pretext for something else which is not so savory? We need to think about navigating these two polarities. Now, I want to just share one final little vignette. When I worked at the JCC of West Hempstead, there was a woman who worked in the office, and she was the bookkeeper. And at one point, somebody in the synagogue said they were going to sue the synagogue because there was something that was in the way, and they tripped. And so a member of the synagogue was going to sue. This woman was not Jewish, she was Roman Catholic. And she said to me, "Rabbi, you don't sue a shul." I said, "Why not?" And she said, "'Cause God don't like ugly." So I want us to think about that. God knows the difference between an action that is truly on behalf of security and an action where security is used as an excuse for something else. God understands how to navigate genuine concern for security with the impulse towards empathy that should flow from every human being. And we as a nation need to figure out how to navigate that polarity a great deal better than we have. Because God don't like ugly, and neither should we. Shabbat Shalom.